Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I am going to be making a character using the Pulp Cthulhu alternate rule set for the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Pulp Cthulhu is sort of a more action-oriented version of the Cthulhu game. It focuses more on sort of faster-paced scenarios, be it suspenseful or investigative, or in a lot of cases more action-packed in terms of actually fighting enemies. This is meant to be more of a combative type of game. In fact, the tagline is two-fisted action and adventure against the mythos. It also sets the game in the 1930s, so post-prohibition and sort of staggering towards World War II sort of era, but overall it's something that I actually wasn't initially planning on getting. It was kind of an impulse buy once we started getting into this mass, like self-isolation stuff that's been going on the last few weeks and will probably be continuing for the foreseeable future. So I decided that, what the heck, there was not a huge amount of point in saving up the limited funds that I have because I'm not going to be able to go anywhere to use it. So I decided to pick this up, and I've been looking through it, and I'm actually kind of enjoying it. More than I really thought I was going to. I was really expecting not to be too keen on this system, because one of the reasons that I wanted to get into the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game was to get away from the more combat-oriented systems. But the more I think about it, now the groups that I have are very responsive to the regular rule set, so I probably won't deviate from that at this point in time. But for people that want to get their gaming groups into Call of Cthulhu, but they're more, the group is more familiar with things like Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, any of the Age series systems from Green Ronin, or things along those lines, having a more action-focused sort of cosmic horror type of game might be something that gets them more comfortable, more familiar with the rule set, and then you can maybe, if you want, to slowly transition towards just the regular rule set, or this might work perfectly fine for you. There are several really detailed and decent adventures included in this book alone. So with this, the Quick Start Cthulhu rules in the Keeper book, or the starter set, you got lots of stuff that you can do. So today, like I said, we're going to make a character using the rules in here. I'm also going to be using the default character creation rules system in this book. Now, normally I use the quickfire method because it's a lot easier. There's less randomness involved. It kind of puts everybody on equal footing, and it's quicker. And when I was trying to get the players to make their characters and start the scenario in the same session, that was something that I really appreciated about it. Was just how quick and easy, and how each step was really easy to do. But I figured I should at least try the regular character creation rules at least once, but honestly I will probably stick to the quickfire because I kind of prefer that style anyway. Again, where it puts everybody on the same footing. That way you don't have one character that just, if someone rolls really well, that they're just exceptionally better at everything than, well, obviously not everything, but exceptionally better at the things that they can do over other characters, and that can sort of lead to a little bit of a discouraging experience. So I kind of like having everybody on equal footing. So with that said, we're just going to dive right into it here. I got a character sheet, I got some scrap paper, and I've got my pencil, some dice that are just off camera there. But let's just go ahead and take a look at the early steps here for creating a character. Now, the first chapter of this book is just sort of explaining what the pulp style kind of is. I'm not too interested in that for the purposes of this video, but this is the section that I want to start at. Also, it looks like they're fighting a frickin' dragon, which is pretty cool. I don't recall seeing stats for that though in any of the books, but that's still a really awesome picture. I should also state that I'm recording this it's currently 12:30 at night when I'm working on this, because as part of this, the side effects of everyone being home, it's very difficult to work on videos. So Hopefully it won't affect me too much good this time around. So looking at the creating pulp heroes, the first step one, is to choose an archetype. So they have several different archetypes here that are available to you. And what an archetype does is each archetype has what's called a core characteristic. And sometimes it's a choice between, a few different options. You choose one of those as your core characteristic for that character. And with the core characteristic, it's going to be a higher number, hopefully, than any of the other stats that you get, because to determine what that statistic is, you roll, I think normally it's 3d6 times 5, I want to say, is the normal method. So let me just see if I can find that here real quick. Yeah, 3d6 times 5 for a lot of things, or some things are 2d6 plus 6. So it's normally times 5 for the multiplier, but with your core characteristic, you roll a d6 added to the number 13, and then multiply that by 5, so you can get potentially a higher number than any of your other abilities start with, which makes sense. It's your character's sort of core ability based off of their background, sort of thing. Archetypes are also separate from the actual professions, but so they can work together in certain ways. They will also give you some skills that you can choose through. Normally you get, I think it's like 100 points that you can distribute between a list of skills that is provided for you there. You get a list of suggested occupations that work with it, but you can choose whatever you want if you want to make something really sort of off the wall or unusual. In some cases, the archetype states whether a particular talent is recommended or must be taken, and talents are something that we will get to after. I'm going to be doing anything that I can do randomly. I'm going to be doing randomly in this video, and then some suggested backstory traits are provided. You don't have to take these for your hero. You can just sort of use them for inspiration. So the archetypes are, there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to go through all of their abilities, but we have like Adventurer, Beefcake, Bon Vivant, Cold-Blooded, Dreamer, Egghead, Explorer, Femme Fatale, Grease Monkey, Hard-Boiled, Harlequin, Hunter, Mystic, Outsider, Rogue, Scholar, Seeker, Sidekick, Swashbuckler, Steadfast, Thrill Seeker, and Two-Fisted. I was contemplating making a Thrill Seeker archetype, and then my profession be like boxer or wrestler, and I was going to call him Chris Irvin, but I decided not to do that. I might do it in a future video, so I'm sure someone will get the reference there. But anyway, but I've actually decided on, for this character, I'm actually going to make them a what was the one? Explorer, I think, is the one that I'm going to go with. So Explorer is, so Explorer is the theme that I'm going to take, or the archetype that I'm going to take for my character. So with Explorer, your core characteristic is either Dexterity or Power. I'm actually probably going to go with Dexterity, and then I get 100 bonus points that I can divide among the following skills: Animal Handling, Anthropology, Archaeology, Climb, Fighting with like fisticuffs, so brawling, First Aid, Jump, Language, Other, Any, Natural World, Navigate, Pilot, Ride, Stealth, Survival, and Track. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to choose 3 of those abilities and put 33 points into 2 of them, and then 34 points into 1 of them. I consider doing 4 of these at 25%, and these are bonus points, so they do add to the starting values on the sheet itself. But I figured I'd just choose 3 and give it a sort of a halfway decent chance, and then I might beef some of those up with personal interest skills later on. Suggested occupations are Agency Detective, Archaeologist, and Archaeologist is the one I'm going to go with, Big Game Hunter, Bounty Hunter, Dilettante, Explorer, Getaway Driver, Gun Mole, itinerant worker, investigative journalist, missionary, photographer, ranger, sailor, soldier, or tribe member. Talents are any two, and suggested traits would be outcast, brave, misfit, loner, bullish, strong-willed, leader, and restless. So that's sort of what we got there. So I'm just going to make a few notes here as to what these things are that I'm going to work with. And so we'll just get that out of the way, and I will be back with that, and we will start moving on to the next step, which is to generate the rest of our abilities. Alright, so I just made some notes here on my scrap paper. I also filled in just some of the character details, and again, I apologize for my terrible handwriting. But I went with the name of Michael Goodwin. He's an archaeologist. I forgot to set the age and gender, but I'll do that. Archetype explorer, currently resides in Boston, but is from Salem, Massachusetts. And so that's what I have there. But for my other notes, just what we have is core characteristic is dexterity. So 1d6 plus 13 times 5, I actually haven't done that yet. But the skills that I chose to distribute the bonus points to would be first aid. I put 33% in that. Survival, 33% into that. And then fighting brawl, I put 34%. And remember, those get added to the numbers, and they might be modified further through either my profession or my personal skills. I will probably try to avoid doing that as much as possible, though. So, for example, first aid, if we take a look here, so first aid actually has a base percentage of 30%, so that's going to give me a 63% in first aid, so I really don't need to worry about that. Survival is 10%, so you can see survival 10%, and I'm going to put, I'm probably going to put jungle, because I think you have to specify a terrain, because there was a spot underneath that. So that's going to be 43% to use that, and fighting brawl starts at 25%, so that's actually going to go up to 59%. So those are pretty decent numbers, so I'm actually just going to fill those in now because I probably won't be changing those. So we'll start with fighting brawl, which we have there 25%, so that is going to go up to 59. The only thing I could consider throwing a single point into there, but I probably won't. First aid was 33, so that's going to go to 63 because it starts at a base of 30. So 63, and then our fighting, survival will go up to 43. 43%. Okay, so we have those numbers filled in. We will also do the half values and fifth values later on. That'll be a separate step that I do there. So the one thing also about this method is your numbers aren't going to be quite as clean as they would be with the quickfire, because there's going to be a lot of, instead of it being like a 5% or like a 10%. There's very few things that have only 1% to start with, or things that aren't evenly divisible by 5. So you're going to get sort of weirder looking numbers with this character creation method, but that's fine. It doesn't really bother me, especially with the focus of this system being more on the characters being more action oriented. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to roll our d6. We're going to add 13 to that number, and then we will multiply that by 5. And we got a 2, so that is 15, so that gives us, what is that? So that is 75? 75. Yeah, because 10 is 50 and then 25, yeah. Like I said, I am doing this late at night, I apologize. So that we have 75. That's actually kind of low, so you know what? Let's just try one more. There we go. So we got a 4. The point of your core characteristic is for it to be a good number. Normally I wouldn't do that, but we'll just go with it. So that is 17. So if 15 was 75, that should be 85, right? That makes sense. We're going to go with that. So our dexterity is 85. We're just going to mark that in. I'll be really embarrassed if this isn't right. It's just, like I said, it's just way way too late for me to try to be thinking too cognitively here. So that's what we got there. And so those are the things that we start with based off our archetype. So then the next step, zoom back out a little bit here. So we go to step 2, which is generate characteristics. So for strength, con, as well as appearance and power, we're going to be rolling 3d6 and then multiplying that result by 5. For size and intelligence and education, we're rolling 2d6 plus 6 times 5. So we'll go through here. So our strength, 3d6 times 5. So that is 12 times 5, right? So 5 and 6, those are upside down, but 5 and 6 is 11 plus 1 is 12. So that gives us a 60%. Okay, and then for our con, that is also going to be, so that's 9 plus 3, that's also going to be 60%. Size was 2d6 plus 6, if I recall. This book does provide you with a bookmark, and if I were smart, I would use it, so I'm going to do that now. It gives you a little ribbon bookmark there. So size 2d6 plus 6 multiplied by 5. So 2d6 plus 6, ooh, okay. So that is 15. So 15 by 5 is 75. And then we have 85. And our appearance is 3d6. So that is going to be 50. So 6, 8, 10 times 5, so appearance is 50. So we're not quite going to be the Indiana Jones type. Education. Education is 2d6 plus 6 times 5. Whoops. So that is 7, so that is going to be 13. Yeah, 7 plus 6, 13. So that's going to be 65. Intelligence. Oops, is that what I just did? No, I just did education. Oh no, intelligence is the same thing. 2d6 plus 6 multiplied by 5. So that is 8 plus 6 is 14. So 14 would be divided, or times 5 should be 70. And then we have our power. So our power is 3d6 multiplied by 5. So that is 5, 7, 8, so that is 13. So 13 times, so that should be 65. Yeah. Okay, so we've got that information there. Up next, we get our movement rate. So if dex and strength are each less than our size value, our movement rate is 7, which we have here. If either strength or dex is equal to or greater than size, or if all three are equal, your movement speed is 8. And then if both strength and dex are greater than size, you have a movement of 9. So my size is 75, my dex is 85, but my strength is only 60. So movement rate is currently at 8. All right, so we have that information there. Okay, so then we have other attributes we have to do. So the other attributes, well, let's actually just put our age in here now. We'll do age and gender. So age, I'm going to make him 29 years old and male. Okay, so we have to generate our luck. So it's 2d6 plus 6 and then multiplied by 5. So that is going to be 9 times 5 is 45. So we have a starting luck, which is down here. So this series of numbers, we have 45. So you just circle the number, and you can spend luck for various things. There's actually a lot more options in this game for your luck than what we have in the core game. So, like one example, if you have 30 or more points and your character is dying, you can actually spend all of your luck, minimum of 30, but it has to be all or nothing, to stabilize yourself, and I think you get like 1d6 plus 6 hit points back or something like that, so kind of an interesting set of abilities there. Sanity points is equal to our power. So you can see we have sanity here. We also have starting sanity and maximum sanity. So maximum sanity is going to start at 99. However, you see on the sheet here there's a skill called Cthulhu Mythos. It starts at 0. The only real ways to gain it would be through like studying the mythos, or sometimes encountering mythos creatures can give you an increase to that skill. However, whatever your Cthulhu Mythos skill is, you subtract that from 99, and that gives you your new maximum sanity. So if I had 30% in Cthulhu Mythos, my maximum sanity could only ever be 69%. So like the more you learn about the mythos, the less of a grip on reality, I guess, you sort of have, if that makes any sense. So, but we start with 99, and it's equal to our power, so we currently have starting at 65, and we're just going to circle the number 65 there as well. So hit points. This is another major change from the default rules. So in the regular Call of Cthulhu, you add your size and strength, or your size and con together, and you then divide by 10 to give you your total number of hit points. So if you had 60 in each, that would be 120 divided by 10 would give you 12 hit points. However, in this system, you add those two things together, but you only divide by 5, so you effectively get twice as much. So again, if your con and size were both 60, that would give you 120 divided by 5, you would give you 24 hit points. So our size and con is going to be, let's see here, so we've got 60 and 75 for our stats there. So that is going to be 135. So that is going to give us, so that would give us 13 normally, because you round down. So that would give us 27. Whoop, is what we have there. So 27 hit points. So right now our max hit points are 27, and do we start with magic points? Hold on. Yeah, so magic points are equal to 1/5 of your power, and keep in mind again that power is willpower. So our power is 65, so 1/5 of that would be 13. So we start with 13 magic points. Okay. And then our damage bonus is we add our size and strength together, and then we look at the chart that's provided. So size and strength is 135, and we look at size and strength here. Whoops, a little bit of glare. So size and strength of 135 gives us plus 1d4, and our build is +1. I think those numbers are also more generous from the right, +1, or just, yeah, so our build is +1. Okay, so I think that's it for those numbers. We already have our movement rate, damage bonus, and build. So next we go into our pulp talents. So we start with 2, and these are new additions to this version of the game as well. So the talents, you have this chart that you can choose from. Like I said, I'm going to roll randomly. So you have physical talents, mental talents, combat talents, and miscellaneous talents. So you get 2 to begin with. So I'm going to roll a d4 to see which charts I'm rolling off of, and then I'm going to roll a d10 on the chart and see what my options are. So the first one is going to be on the mental talent. So I rolled a 2, and rolling a 2. Rolling a 2 has you rolling on mental talents. So that's the first one. And then the second one is also a 2. Let's roll that again and just choose something else. Okay, so we got 4. So we're going to do 1 on the mental, 1 on the miscellaneous talents. So on this second page, we have a section for talents there. So we got our mental talents chart. We're going to roll a d10. And I know I'm fudging like some of the numbers if I roll the same thing or kind of a low number. It's not how I would normally do it for creating the character, but at the same time, you know, you want the character to be a little pulpy. So with the 1d6 plus 13, if one of the players rolled a 2, I actually probably would let them re-roll it. And you can choose your starting talents. You don't have to roll them randomly, so something else to sort of keep in mind there. But I rolled a 10 on the mental chart, so that is, I am sharp, get it to focus here, I am sharp-witted. I am able to collate facts quickly, gain a bonus die when making intelligence but not idea rolls, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go with sharp-witted. I'm not going to write down the whole thing, but we'll just make a note here, so sharp-witted, and then bonus die on ent rolls, because idea rolls are something sort of defined separately. So that is our mental talent. Our miscellaneous talent, I rolled a 2. So I actually get to start with a gadget. Start with 1 weird science gadget. So see weird science on page 86. Okay, so we have our weird science section here. So we have the different gadgets. There's no 1, 2. Let's see if there's like a number that 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9. I'm just going to choose one actually. So I am going to give myself the voice mimicking. So voice mimicking is a 10-inch by 5-inch black box with a small conical trumpet sticking out one end. Placing the trumpet against a telephone receiver while speaking into the box uses the voice mimicker. The user's voice is changed to higher or lower frequencies, enabling the voice to be disguised, or even allowing a man to sound like a woman, or vice versa. So I'm just going to write down gadget. Again, I apologize for my really awful handwriting. And the gadget's name was voice mimicking. Alright, so our next step is to determine our occupation. So I already know what that is going to be. There's a whole list of different things that we can do here, but the one that I'm going to go with is archaeologist. So your occupation skill points is your education times 4. So I have an education of 65 multiplied by 4 gives us 260 points to work with. With that, we have to have a credit rating between 10 to 40. So that's something to keep in mind. You do have to spend some of those points for that. And then it gives you suggested contacts, so people that you might have in your background, so patrons, museums and universities. Skills, so this is the skills that they recommend choosing from, which is what we're going to use for this list. So we have appraise, archaeology, history, other language, library use, spot hidden, mechanical repair, navigate, or science, which could be chemistry, physics, geology, etc., and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is take these 260 points and I will distribute them amongst some of those skills, and with these you are adding them to the base numbers as well, because you're buying them instead of like just having set values like you do in the quickfire rules. So I'm going to put all that in there. I'm also going to fill in the half and fifth values for everything. And so I'll get that done off camera because it's sort of boring to watch, and I'll be back once I have all that taken care of. Alright, Alright, so that's all taken care of. I also included my personal interest skill points in there as well. I forgot to mention that before I cut away, but essentially it's just your education score multiplied by 2, and that gives you a number of extra bonus points, and you can use those to beef up your profession skills or anything else that you wanted to do. So I had 260 and then 400 personal interest points. So that's just sort of the math that we did there. So I filled in all the rest of the numbers, so the half and fifth values. So we ended with an appraise of 65%, archaeology of 71%, charm of 45%. We have 20% in credit rating, so the credit rating is between 10 and 40%. I sort of went for the middle there. And then drive auto, we have 30% in that. Fighting brawl, we have 59%. First aid is 63%. History is 45%. Other language, Egyptian, I have 31% in that. Language own is based off of your education. And dodge is half of your dex. So half of 85 would be 42. And then half of 42 is 21. And then 1/5 of 40 would be 8. So I forgot to fill that in there, but we have that now. So your language own, or so in this case would be English, so we'll write down English. So that's 65. Library use is 60. Occult, I did take some points in occult, so that's 35% there. And then we have 55% for spot hidden. And finally, 43% for survival in sort of jungle. I'm actually going to switch that to desert since I took Egyptian. Okay, so for desert environments, 43% survival. So we have that information there. So all that's really left is to fill out our backstory, and there are charts for that we're going to use. I'm not going to worry about gear and possessions at this point in time, but we will fill in the cash and assets. So, with our book here, I believe cash and assets section. We have living standards, so we have sort of an average living standard. Here we go. So for our cash and assets, we base it off of our credit rating. So if our credit rating is between 10 and 49%, it's considered to be average. So we have a credit rating of 20. So that's our starting credit rating. So cash, so this is sort of the cash that we'd sort of have access to, not necessarily on hand, but we'd have access to, is your credit rating times 2. So that would give us a cash of $40. So that's just sort of what we have easy access to. Our assets, so the amount of things that we, the total value of things that we own is our credit rating times 50. So we have 40, so that should be 2,000? Yeah, so we have 2,000 we have $2,000 in assets. And our spending level is $10. So basically what that means is you don't track these things super thoroughly in this particular game. The idea is that if you're spending less than your spending level on any individual thing or per day, then you don't really bother tracking it. Because your characters have, they have professions, they have jobs, so they'd have income coming to them through that. So it's not quite like handing out treasure like you would in other role-playing games. You just sort of have, some guidelines to sort of work within. You can spend assets and things like that to improve your living quality. or your dwelling. You can use it for certain things. You can use it for loans and things of that nature as well. So there are reasons to have that stuff, but it's not something that will get used typically too much. So like we never really bothered tracking it too much. And for starting gear, we just sort of went with some things that would make sense in the games that I've run so far. And if there was something else that suddenly seems like a good idea to have, I might let them do like a lec check to see if they actually had the item on them. So we've got the credit rating information filled in. So we are going to go to our final step, and then we've got our character built. So the final step is to create the backstory. So there are pieces of information that we have here that we can use. So we start with a personal description. So we think of a distinct look that sums up your hero's appearance. Whether your appearance and your personality match are another question. A person may look stuffy, but actually be very personable and open. So there are some possibilities listed by male, female, or unisex. Pick one that best matches your character concept, or roll a d20. And it says roll a d20 and add the results together, but I'm not quite sure why they would say that. It also says just to pick one, but I'm going to pick a couple of descriptors here of myself. So they are d20, so I'm going to actually roll 2 d20s and see if I can make this work. So the first number that I get is 14, and I am male. I'm going to go with that. So 14, I am dashing. I'm going to go with that. And then the next one is an 8, and wolfish. Sure, why not? What is my appearance anyway? I think it's just average, isn't it? Appearance 50, yeah. So a little wolfish, but I am dashing. Okay. So ideology and beliefs also give us the ability to roll randomly, so you better believe I'm going to roll randomly. Ordinarily, I might, if I was making this for a game or a campaign that I was playing in, I might make more active choices, but I'm going to have some fun with this, so let's go ahead and roll a d10. And we got a 10, so without my family and friends, I am nothing. So ideologies and beliefs, so without family, whoop. Friends, I am nothing. Significant people. So we also have the option to roll here. So it's another d10. So we have 1. Okay, so we have parent. So we're going to go with, let's go with a significant person. We'll go with father. Meaningful locations. Nope. It doesn't look like there's a spot for meaningful locations. So we just have stuff about your, so just figuring out like the father thing. So meaningful locations, we'll put Miskatonic University. We're just going to put that for now. Okay, so we'll go back to the significant individual, so why they are significant. So who are they? So why are they significant is another d10 roll, so we're going to roll that. And we got 4. So you wronged them and you seek reconciliation. I'm not going to go through all the details, but father, who I wronged, and seek reconciliation. So what are the options they give here? Example, you stole money from them, informed the police about them, refused to help when they were desperate. Seeking reconciliation. Since we're getting out of prohibition, maybe you say informed police He was a moonshiner. And that's why the rest of my family matters so much to me. I think I like the way that that works. And then we have treasured possessions. So we got another chart to roll on, so you better believe that's what we're going to do. So 2 is an essential item for your occupation. So it would be, so I guess my archaeologist kit. Treasured possessions. Archaeology kit. So it has basically has like a sketchbook or notebook, like the brush, the picks, the stuff to work with, some writing utensils so you can draw or make notes. So yeah, and that's basically it. We have our character designed. We got everything that we basically need. The only thing that, I guess the last thing just to fill in will be this unarmed strike. So just regular 59%, hard success is at 29, and extreme success would be at 11. So yeah, we have all of our information. So that is our pulp character, and I kind of enjoyed working on this and making this character, and I'm kind of enjoying the system as well. So for one of my groups, I might consider converting their characters over to like the Pulp Cthulhu system, and I don't think there'd be much to do other than just to give them a few upgrades. So, for example, you allocate 90% to the core characteristic, and then 80-70. So you just sort of bump up some of the stats. Choose the talents. You'd multiply the hit points basically by 2, and I think that would more or less do it. So I really enjoyed this, and yeah, I think this would be a fun system to run and or even to play. But I mean, I'm going to be realistic here, and the only reason I'm making this character is going to be for the purposes of this video. But it was enjoyable. I do like this system, and I do recommend that people check it out. Especially, like I said, if you are more familiar with other more like combat-oriented RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Starfinder, things along those lines, but you want to get into a more horror-themed campaign, or you want your players who are more familiar with that stuff to get into the horror-themed campaign, this might be the way to go about doing it. And with these options, you still have a more powerful character. There are other elements to it as well, I think you heal faster from injury. You have the option to spend your luck points to negate damage or reduce damage, or to prevent your character from dying. So there's a lot of really cool things that this system has, and so that was just the character creation for it. So yeah, and I like the system, but I think I would still go with the quick fire rules, because it's just the numbers are set, it's easy, everyone has the same pool to work with. I think that's the way that I would go, but at least I can now say that I have used the default method to create a character with, so I can sort of compare the two and see which version of the rules the character creation system I prefer. And I'm going to say that I prefer the quickfire rules, just because of the fact that, again, everyone would sort of have the same numbers to work with, and everyone's sort of on equal footing, which I think is kind of important, especially when you're teaching or getting people into a game for the first time, like a whole new system. If someone ends up just rolling poorly, it can really have an impact on their enjoyment. So I prefer that method, but I have tried this, and this is enjoyable as well. I think for a more hardcore group, or a group that's more familiar with the Cthulhu system and have a better grasp on how they want to make their characters, I would probably do this method. But right now, where everyone that I'm running it for is just like their introduction to this game is through me. The quick fire method is the one that I would go with. But I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it sort of helps understand how to create the characters and to see, you know, just the potential for much higher numbers in this particular the Pulp Cthulhu version of the game. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have played Pulp Cthulhu, let me know some of the characters that you've created, and let me know if you want me to go ahead and make that Thrill Seeker Chris Irvin at some point, because I would absolutely be willing to do it, and or just let me know if you get the reference in the description below. So thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you next time, and take care.